I finally got another big old can of Tual or Toal, not sure how to say it. Another Danish brewer who gets the proof to brew beers for him. This is a Berliner Weisse, as they call it, with pink guava and lychee, but then it's also hopped with Nelson Sauvin and Mosaic hops, according to what I read online. This just says balanced with wheat and tropical hops instead of the whole fruit Berliner Weisse thing. And the bottom of the can says, well, if you read that in the European way, it's June 7th, 2017. So if the best by date for this is a year after it's canned, it was canned almost 3 months ago, but maybe it wasn't that. I'm not sure. I don't know how it works with Toal and their beers that are only 4.5% alcohol, like this one. But it has pretty good ratings, and it sounds right at my alley. I think one of my most recent reviews was the Grimm dry hop fruity sour, and some of theirs I like a lot, some not quite so much, but this one sounds right up my alley because I think I like lychee. I've had it in a few beers. Most of them have been really good. I recently also had a pink guava beer that was extremely juicy, extremely brightly pink, but I rarely get to have those beers or those fruit in a beer with lots of nice tasting new wave hops. And Mr. Pink, I guess, is maybe somehow a reference to Reservoir Dogs. I'm not sure what all these numbers mean. I haven't tried to figure it out because I don't really care. And it's a nice half-liter can, so plenty in there. It just got into my area a few days ago. I'd never seen it before, actually anywhere. And it's not really that hazy. Maybe there's some yeast on the bottom because I've had this can sitting in the fridge for a day. But it's got a little haze, and it's looks about normal for a Berliner Weisse. Sometimes Berliner Weisses can be even paler than this. It's quite pale, but it's not really pale piss yellow. Ooh, wow. The aroma is super fruity and juicy. Oh yeah, that smells really nice. I've had another Gose, another sour canned beer from Toal, which is their Gose to Hollywood, that had, I guess, oranges in it. And that one had another super fruity, juicy aroma, but I didn't find out if that one has any interesting hops in it, but this one definitely does. And it smells like so much like passion fruit and pineapple, all the tropical fruits you can think of. Lychee and pink guava that are in this, I've never actually had before. I guess the pink guava is probably adding a little bit of a pinkish reddish hue. It's kind of hard to tell on there. There is a kind of a red tinge to it, but it's not like an amber red that you get from actual malt. And the carbonation it's pretty high, but not crazy high, especially considering how impeccable this head is. Usually sour beers don't have as like full and thickly bubbled and persistent of a head as this beer, but it's sticking around. Oh, it smells really good. It smells like there's a lot of actual tropical juice in this. It reminds me a little bit of the Avery Lilikoi Capolo, but there's definitely a resinous, juicy hop element in the aroma that's unique to this one, that separates it from like just fruity wheat beers. I don't quite get any like jalapeno or weird things like that I get sometimes from Nelson hops. But yeah, there is some kind of resinous green herbaceous quality that's still pretty subtle. Oh yeah, and I get some hop flavor, along with the really, really juicy fruits. It's not very sour at all, actually. It's barely Berliner Weisse. It's just a light tartness, which I like quite a bit. It doesn't take over all the interesting hops and fruits that are in here. This is very different from the last couple of Grimm dry hop sours I've had. They were just like way too lemony, and that kind of overtook all the other things in their beers. Because they do fruits and they do oak conditioning and all this stuff. And this one just has some really interesting fruits and very tasty hops that match up with the fruit flavors really well. And it's ooh, and there is a little bit of a bitterness, a little bit of a hop bite that fills in for a little bit of a lack of a lemony sourness, which I don't really miss. And then there's like lots of Smarties, almost sweet tart flavors in the finish, but it's not a one-sided like super sweet and tart sort of flavor. It's got some like chalky, fruity sort of things going on. Smarties is kind of the best way for me to describe that flavor. It almost tastes like there could be Brettanomyces in here. It's like that kind of wild yeast fruitiness is in this, but no funkiness. It's not or no Brettanomyces type farm funkiness. That's definitely not in this beer. It's just the way they use the hops with the guava. The hops bring in a little bit of a chalky bitter finish along, and then also match with the fruitiness of the lychee and pink guava, and maybe the lactobacillus adds this little bit of a tartness that is something that can come from Brettanomyces too, which is interesting because I think you could make a beer with a really similar flavor profile to this, but using mainly just like mild hops and everything, no fruit added, just from the yeast. And there's actually some nice lacing happening with this beer. And really refreshing. It's just right on the edge of being mouth-watering. And the hops are definitely noticeable. The fruit might be the main thing you notice at first, but then you get used to it, and I'm starting to notice some of the hop resins build up, but it's still very mild. It's not anything like an IPA. Yeah, I like this a lot. I would give it an 87 even, maybe. It's really well done. It's exactly my style, but there are no real flaws in it, in my opinion. DeProof nailed this beer, and Toal gave him an awesome recipe. This is the kind of thing I wish would come about more often, especially since now it's almost fall, so these beers are going to kind of disappear for a while probably, or at least fresh ones will. But I'll give 80, maybe 86, 87 or whatever for Mr. Pink from our other interesting Danish gypsy brewers. Bye.